다음은 세 번째 발표를 준비하고 계시는데요. 바로 주한 프랑스 대사관 피에르 모르코스 문화 참사관님께서 프랑스 문화정책과 글로벌 문화 리더십 혁신, 지속가능한 문화도시를 위한 전략과 과제를 주제로 프랑스의 사례와 국제협력 전략을 공유해 주시겠습니다. 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 고맙습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 내 이름은 Pierre Morcos입니다. 프랑스 문화참사관입니다. 만나서 반갑습니다. It's a real pleasure to be here today at Jeonju. It's actually my third time in Jeonju since I arrived in Seoul and Korea 1 year ago. I visited the Jeonbuk National University, and also I've been to your city, the Hanok village, with my family, and I'm always pleased to be here. I was asked to share some lessons and experiences about France and how French cities are key cultural actors and in bringing culture to the largest audience, but also in connecting with cities in the world. So my presentation will be divided in 5 parts, and I will try to be as short as possible to keep the timing right. First, I would like to give some background about the French cultural policy, which is quite old, since France was one of the first countries to create a Ministry of Culture. It was in 1959, and the first minister was André Malraux, a famous French writer. And the ambition of the French government at the time was to have a true public policy on culture, first to preserve heritage, but also to promote creation. And now the French Ministry of Culture budget is around 4.2 billion euros, which is about 1.2% of the state's budget, which is one of the largest in Europe. What's interesting also in France is that we have created around this Ministry of Culture many public institutions, agencies who are dedicated to promote and encourage creation in different fields. One example is the Center for National Cinema, CNC, which is the largest body in France in charge of promoting French movie production, but also supporting movie theaters and also helping co-production with international partners. And we have many other institutions, which is really demonstrating that France has a large constellation of public actors in the service of cultural policy. And what's interesting is that Korea has followed the same model, since Korea has created in 1968 also a Ministry of Culture, and Korea has many similar institutions who are now partners of French institutions. The second point is that one key element of the French cultural policy is democratization and decentralization. In the 1980s, the then Minister of Culture, Jacques Lang, was really empowered to provide culture to the largest audience. And one of his motto was quite simple but ambitious: culture is not a privilege, it is a right. And Lang increased the ministry budget significantly. He promoted festivals and popular events like the French Music Week. He also worked to bring culture closer to everyday citizens. His approach was also to break barriers between high culture and popular culture. For instance, at the time, rock music, comics, street arts gained official recognition alongside opera and classical music. And today, Jacques Lang is still active, and for instance, he recently talked about webtoons to the French president. So he's still trying to encourage a new form of culture to be a central part of culture at large. Another key element of his policy in the 1980s was decentralization. His goal was to, instead of concentrate culture in Paris, in our capital, it was to encourage regional initiatives. He supported a lot of local cultural institutions, medium-sized cities, and helped local authorities to invest in cultural infrastructures. So now let me talk about the role of local authorities in France. In the same period of time, in the 1980s, France passed a lot of laws about decentralization. So a lot of policies were transferred to local authorities at the time. And in France, we have 3 levels of local authorities. First, we have the cities. In France, we have 36,000 cities. Then the departments, we have 100 departments. And then the regions, 18 regions in total. And all those actors have a specific role in culture. They often run museums, music conservatories, they manage archives, libraries, but also they support festivals and cultural industries. And what's striking is that those local players invest more in culture than the French government. They spend annually 8.5 billion euros in culture, which is twice as high as the budget of the Ministry of Culture. So in total, those local players and the French government invest a lot of money in culture, and they work hand in hand. Now let me share with you some concrete examples of those local initiatives led by local players. One of them is the Louvre Lens. Louvre is the most famous French museum, the biggest museum in the world. And they decided in 2012 to open a museum in Lens to display some of its collection, but also to store parts of their collection. And what's interesting in that choice is that Lens is a city located in northern France, and it used to be quite a rich region tied to coal mining. But all those mines were closed in the 20th century, and now it's quite a poor region. So they decided to bring this museum to revitalize the region and to bring culture and new initiatives and opportunities to the region. And this museum is really closely tied to the local associations, local population, and they really are working to bring this culture to the largest audience. A second example is a famous festival, the Festival of Angoulême on comics. It was created in 1974, and it is now the largest festival dedicated to comics in the world. And what's also important with that festival is that it is deeply connected to the city and its citizens. It's really is organized throughout the city in libraries, but also it has created museums, schools, so the entire city is now dedicated to graphic arts. Similarly, in Arles, in southern France, a festival dedicated to photography was created in 1970. And now, again, it is one of the largest festivals dedicated to photography in the world. And again, their approach is not to limit the festival to one venue, but to be present in every important venues of Arles, in museums, in galleries, but also, as you can see, in churches. So what's interesting in all those local initiatives is that first, they are the results of a collaboration between the French state government and local authorities. Second, the local citizens are actively involved in the daily lives of those festivals, so they are actors of those festivals. And third, those festivals are not limited to the festival themselves, but they have some kind of a continuity with the creation of museums, of schools, so that those cities have become cultural cities dedicated to arts, to photography in the case of Arles, to comics in the case of Angoulême. Now my final point is about how those different local initiatives are connecting with Korea. It is part of my job as cultural counselor in Korea to create bridges between France and Korea, but more specifically between French cities and Korean cities. So let me give you three examples of initiatives we have launched recently. The example number one is connecting festivals. In France, we have a lot of famous festivals. I mentioned some of them. Another one is the Festival of Annecy, which is dedicated to animation. It is now the largest animation film festival in the world. And Annecy, for the past few years, have built ties with the Bucheon International Animation Festival, which is also quite a famous and prestigious festival. So now the two festivals are collaborating very closely. For instance, in Annecy, we showcase Korean animation movies. We have also Korean juries selecting the competition. And also we bring young talents in Annecy to also discover the French ecosystem. So now those two festivals are somehow are twins, and we have created similar partnerships with other festivals between France and Korea. Another example is the French Music Week. I mentioned it earlier. It was launched initially in the 1980s by Jacques Lang. The principle of the Fête de la Musique is to organize across France during one night concerts in every French city. And the idea is to promote very popular music in restaurants, in bars, in concert halls, to be some kind of huge party celebrating music in its diversity. And here in Korea, the French embassy has decided to organize the French Music Week with a similar approach. So we are supporting the organization of dozens of concerts across Korea. So this year we organized more than 30 concerts in 9 cities, including in Jeonju, with concerts about indie music, rock, classical music, pop. So quite a diverse genre were represented. And we are trying to decentralize culture and to bring culture to the largest audience in Korea. And it has been quite a success so far. My third and final example is the creation of artist residencies. France is well known to have an international network of artist residencies. Some of them are extremely famous, like the Villa Médicis in Rome or the Villa Albertine in the US. And recently, in Korea, we have created also villas that are hosting French artists for many months so that they can create artworks in relation with Korea. So one of this program is called Villa Busan. This villa is a partnership between the French embassy, the city of Busan, and the city of Cannes. And it is hosting twice a year French artists for 3 months, and they develop during their stay in Korea an exhibition in relation with the history, the culture of Busan. And it has been quite successful, and we launched that program 1 year ago, and our ambition is to create similar artist residency programs in every major cities of Korea. So for instance, we are in discussion with the city of Bucheon, I mentioned earlier, to create an artist residency program dedicated to graphic arts. So starting next year, young French talents will come to Bucheon, stay 3 months, and create drawings, comic books, in connection with Korea. And we think this is the best way to create true ties between the French artists and Korea. And what's important for us is to partner with Korean cities, so Busan or Bucheon, which are part of the UNESCO Cultural City Network. To conclude, I would like to say that next year, as was mentioned earlier, we are celebrating 140 years of diplomatic relations between France and Korea. This is a very important diplomatic anniversary, and my personal objective is to expand the ties between France and Korea and between French cultural actors and Korean cultural actors, because beyond importing French content, I think it's more important to build bridges, lasting ties that would last longer than just a movie projection or a classical music concert. It will have really a lasting impact and connect people between our two countries. I thank you for your attention. 감사합니다.